Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel, Make It an Amazing Day. My name is Johan, and I'm here at the Sacred Grove with my loyal companion Ace, a rescued pit bull. If I could imagine it this way, and I can, I'm listening to the many sounds of that creek flowing, and it's like neurons in my brain are boop, boop, boop to the natural sound. How's your heart today? How is your heart today? Is your heart good? That's good. How's your mind? Is your mind balanced? Are you all caught up with the things of life, or are you carrying a burden? If you're carrying a burden, I understand. I believe also my subscribers, people I got to know here on this channel, they understand about burdens. You're not alone. A long time ago, I read a book titled The Many Names of God. I don't know if it's still available, but it was a very interesting book because it not only described over the thousands of years the many names of God, it gave a little bit of background on the cultures, the societies that gave the one a specific name and why. At the end of the day, that power greater than yourself, the one, the divine, the creator, Yahweh, Jesus, Muhammad, the All-Father, the Great Spirit, Sita, Ram, the Buddha, they have different names. And if you study those spiritual paths and ways and religions, doctrines and tenets, with an open mind, you will discover the teachings aren't that much different. For real. For real. Open mind. It's not much different from observing other people, okay? We observe other people. They may not look like us, but they're really not that different. If we could strip away the destructive views that are sometimes thrust upon us by governments, people in charge with an agenda. If we could strip away those destructive views that maybe we've adopted over the years because we wanted to fit in, if we could look at each person unbiased and see their authenticity, the world would be a better place. I will be 66 in August, and I think back having conversations when I was a kid in the 60s with my grandmother, who basically raised me. Probably when I was about 12, 13, 14 and up. We'd have conversations and I'd say something like, "Baba, the world's going crazy." And she would reply, "Johnny," because I was her Johnny boy. "Johnny, it's not the world, it's the people in it. The people in it." How we got to this point is important. This point of looking at the differences instead of the similarities, that's important. The question is, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? It's hard to judge people, and when I say judge, I mean, is this someone I want to be friends with? When I say, is this someone I want to be friends with, I mean, do we have the same attitude and outlook on life? Are we as genuine as we possibly could be? Are we our authentic selves? Are we doing today what is necessary to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, as Ralph Smart says? Whether you realize it or not, there's a great awakening happening right now in the world. Not the world, Johnny, it's the people. Right, there's a great awakening happening in the world right now. Folks are waking up to the fact of the distractions. When I step away from the concrete jungle, so to speak, when I come down here in nature, now this is a sacred grove I built in honor of my ancestors. Do you know who your ancestors are? Where they're from, their culture, their routines, their traditions, their celebrations, their ceremonies? If you don't, you should. Remember just a little bit ago I said in a roundabout way, how did we get here to this tumultuous presentation of ourselves that we have today? When you investigate your ancestors from a long time ago, those tribes, those clans, those groups, you'd be surprised how spiritual they were. How they lived their lives, their beliefs, ceremonies they had, rituals, daily routines. Being on a spiritual path is one thing. As we move from one dimension to the next, first dimension, second dimension, third, fourth, fifth dimension. What propels us to excel is our knowledge about our ancestors. The title of this video is Becoming One with the One, the Spirit of the universe, the Creator. The one each culture and society gives a different name to. However, the one that they look up to, praise, honor, because that's what gives us life. That's what gives us life. There's a force all around us, a force. There's a force. And that force that gives us life is the same force that gives life to these trees, the grass, the birds, the insects, the animals. In other words, we're all connected. We are all connected. And that great awakening that I'm talking about, that's happening now, it's big. It's a big deal. Our eyes are being opened. Nay, our minds are being opened to the reality that we are not that much different than each other, maybe by appearance. That's about it. I mentioned yesterday in the video, as I walked this spiritual walk, I began to question long-held beliefs. Long-held beliefs. Inside me, Something stirred, okay? Something stirred. Why can't I be your friend? Why can't I be his friend? Why can't I be her friend? I studied over the decades many spiritual paths, many spiritual ways, many spiritual religions, the Stoics, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sufism, the teachings of Confucius, the Tao, the teachings of Jesus. There are those teachings and the interpretations of them presented to us by, let's just say, church leaders. And if you know enough about these different religious and spiritual paths and ways, the teachings of those prophets or mystics, healers, are presented. However, a lot of those institutions have their own doctrines and tenets and ideas. This is my church here out in nature, in the woods, in the mountains. This is my church. When I come here, I deactivate my senses, as I said in a video yesterday. I deactivate my senses. Everything here is natural. I'm not looking at a TV or a phone or a internet on a computer with thousands of lights, beeps, vibration sounds, lights coming and going, flashing, a lot of stuff behind the scenes you don't notice, really, that affect the mind. Sensory overload, sensory overload. So I come here to detach from that. Here in the woods, in nature, we are all equal. I'm equal to the trees. I'm equal to the grass. I'm equal to the leaves. I'm equal to the birds. I'm equal to the little creatures running around. Ants, flies, mosquitoes, dragonflies, hummingbirds. We're coexisting right here. My mind is clear. I've detached my senses from modern technology. When I wake up, I go to the bathroom, grab a coffee, and sit on my deck for 5 or 10 minutes in silence. Just let my thoughts flow like a river. Except it's not water, it's my thoughts. Then eventually, like a river, there's a point where there's still water. You ever see that? A river or a creek, you're walking along and then it's like a pond. It's still in the flow of the creek, but it's still water. So at some point in my mind, those thoughts calm down like still water. And that's when I start to collect my thoughts. What's important? What do I need to do today? What's the priority? And then I come here into nature. This is where I keep it real. This is where I keep it real. I do not turn on my television first thing in the morning and start watching the news. How I think, how I view the world is not dependent on some journalist giving their interpretation, typically a biased one, about current events. Now, there's a lot going on in the world today, I'll give you that. But I think of things like back in the 70s, say, we had 3 keys on our key ring. One was for the house, a house key, and cars typically had 2 keys, the square one for the ignition and a round one for the trunk. Where are my keys? They're over there. There's a big hook with like 10, 15 keys. I get it, right? There's a reason for a lot of them. I'm just talking about how we went from simplicity we didn't hop in our cars with a drink and a snack for along the way. We had breakfast, we had whatever to drink, coffee, tea. We didn't leave our house and stop somewhere and get a $10 specialty coffee. We had money in our pockets, cash, not credit cards or bank cards, ATM cards, debit. I mentioned to somebody one time, how did I ever exist without these cards? But I did. You ever leave your house, you start going where you're going and you're like, oh my God, I left my cell phone at home. I said to somebody one time, how did we ever exist without a cell phone? When I take my dog out at night, there's a few steps involved in that, you know. Put my shoes on, get his leash, his collar. And sometimes I get at the door and I say, oh wait, Ace, hold on, I forgot my phone, it's 2024, you gotta take your phone with you when you go out your house. We've been programmed. We've been programmed. What's important to you today is my question. What is important to you today? Now, I'm mature enough to know your family's important. I'm mature enough to know going to work is important. I'm retired now. What's important to you today? Excuse me, you can answer that. And there's no wrong answer. Here's what I've learned along my journey. Because it's the journey, not the destination. Whatever I prioritize in my life, those things, family, Maybe you have a lot of toys, cars, motorcycles, tractors, you work on a farm. You have things that are necessary on the farm, but for some reason you have a lot of other things. All these things. Friends are important. Family's important. Maintaining your home is important. Let me give you an example how my mind works. I looked in a mirror today when I was combing my little beard here, and I said I need a shave. And I will. But shaving isn't a priority to me. What's important to me today is, where is my heart and mind? Where is my heart and mind, spiritually speaking? Am I all revved up by what's going on around me? Am I hanging on to resentments from a week ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Am I still holding a grudge against somebody because they said something to me I didn't like? Or you're holding a grudge against certain people because you were told things that weren't true about certain people. Did you ever hear that saying, does one bad apple spoil the whole bunch? Not necessarily. There's that creak sound again, and in my mind, the neurons, neuroplasticity, natural sounds. I see like shade against the trees here of the leaves moving, all natural. At the center of this awakening that's going on today, this great awakening, at the center of it is an energy form that's non-biased. It's a life-giving energy form. It's the same for you as it is for me, and it's available to everyone. It doesn't come from a television. It doesn't come from a cell phone. It doesn't come from TikTok. It doesn't come from Facebook. It doesn't come from X. And you can't connect with it in a space with a lot of distractions. You can't connect with it by listening to people that have an agenda. You can't connect with it if your mind is cluttered and your heart is poisoned by people, groups, institutions that have an agenda. Have you ever seen pictures and photos from 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 years ago on cave walls that our ancestors from way back then drew? They were animals. Quite a bit of them had the sun. Quite a few had stars drawn on the cave walls. And one particular drawing on cave walls that touches my heart deeply are those drawings of their hands, big hands, and the little hands of their children. Make it an amazing day. Make it. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. And not just that, make it an amazing life. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of life you're going to have. You create your own reality. And over the millennia, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, groups of people, cultures, and societies left us images of what was important to them. Whether it's rock formations in a certain way, whether it's specifically placed structures that have to do with the sun, the moon, and the stars. Stories of their rituals around a fire, or handprints on a cave wall. The adults and the children. Compare that to what's going on around us today. Put it into perspective. Thank you for listening to my teachings. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for leaving a comment. Until the next video, make it an amazing day. And not just that, make it an amazing life. And have a good one.